morning. This hearing will come to order.
Big Pharma tried to silence me when I said lemon contains a nutrient that naturally controls blood sugar. This changes everything we know about blood sugar spikes, so pay attention. Blood sugar levels up to 97 are considered normal. But from
I thank my colleagues and Mr. Kennedy for being here today. Mr. Kennedy, congratulations on your nomination. Throughout this process, Mr. Kennedy, you have been accessible to members and staff on both sides of the aisle and have demonstrated strong commitment to fulfilling the responsibilities of this role. The Department of Health and Human Services oversees our nation's largest healthcare programs, providing coverage for nearly 2 in every 5 Americans. Improving Medicare, Medicaid, and CHIP, among other initiatives, presents challenges, especially in the face of a rapidly aging population, stubbornly high costs, and persistent barriers to access. However, this also provides us an opportunity to deliver bold, transformative solutions. As a committee, we share a commitment to advancing common sense, bipartisan policies that improve the delivery of health care in this country. This committee has worked to realign incentives in the prescription drug supply chain, to enhance access in rural communities, to expand the availability of telehealth and improve the broken clinician payment structure. Across these and other issues, I look forward to working with the administration to continue pursuing meaningful reforms that serve the American people more effectively and more efficiently. Too often, patients encounter a healthcare system that is disjointed and is a dysfunctional maze. Complex and bureaucratic chutes and ladders have become the norm. Meanwhile, even as healthcare spending climbs, outcomes across a range of conditions continue to decline. Mr. Kennedy, if confirmed, you will have the opportunity to chart a new and better course for the federal approach to tackling both the drivers and the consequences of our ailing healthcare system. Your commitment to combating chronic conditions that drive healthcare costs will be critical to our success. Prioritizing disease prevention and addressing the factors that fuel conditions such as diabetes, cardiovascular disease, metabolic disease, Alzheimer's disease, COPD, and cancer will save lives, reduce costs, and build a healthier, stronger country. Private sector breakthroughs from groundbreaking cancer medications to curative gene therapies also offer hope. But misguided government initiatives and market volatility risk eroding American leadership in life-saving R&D. Your advocacy for healthcare transparency has the potential to empower consumers across the country, promoting competition to enhance quality while cutting excessive spending for patients and for taxpayers. Today's hearing will provide a forum to hear more about your vision, particularly for the federal programs under this committee's jurisdiction. Mr. Kennedy, you represent a voice for an inspiring coalition of Americans who are deeply committed to improving the health and well-being of our nation. Regardless of political party, everyone in this room shares a common recognition that our current system has fallen short, as well as a common desire to make our country healthier. I look forward to today's conversation as well as your testimony, Mr. Kennedy. And now I recognize Senator Wyden for his opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The question before the Finance Committee this morning is whether Robert F. Kennedy should be trusted with the health and well-being of the American people. Committee staff have examined thousands of pages of statements, books, and podcast transcripts in a review of his record. The receipts show that Mr. Kennedy has embraced conspiracy theories, quacks, charlatans, especially when it comes to the safety and efficacy of vaccines. He has made it his life's work to sow doubt and discourage parents from getting their kids life-saving vaccines. It has been lucrative for him and put him on the verge of immense power. This is the profile of someone who chases money and influence wherever they lead, even if that may mean the tragic deaths of children and other vulnerable people. Now, Mr. Kennedy is fond of saying he's not making recommendations about whether parents should vaccinate their children. He's just asking questions and giving people choices. It's a slippery tactic to dodge any real responsibility for his words and actions. And it is, in my view, absurd coming from somebody who's trying to win confirmation for a job that is entirely about making recommendations. These recommendations are going to have life or death consequences for the American people. Mr. Kennedy, if you are confirmed, your recommendations determine which vaccines senior citizens get for free through Medicare. Your recommendation will determine which vaccines are given to millions of kids.
That dude looks like a vaccine.
Peddling
Straight
these
up, looks
anti-vaccine
like a
conspiracy theories as our chief health officer is going to endanger the lives of kids and seniors across the nation. Just look at what happened when Mr. Kennedy inserted himself into an anti-vaccination crisis in the island nation of Samoa. He traveled there himself to push his views and pour fuel on the fire of a measles outbreak that began due to low vaccination rates. In the end, 83 Samoans died, mostly kids, from a disease that is easily preventable. Americans cannot afford to import this experiment to our great nation.
File your taxes 100% free in the app if you didn't use us last year. Just file with TurboTax Do-It-Yourself by February.
On other healthcare matters, from abortion to universal healthcare, Mr. Kennedy has changed his views so often it is nearly impossible to know where he stands on so many of the basic issues that impact Americans' daily lives. In a gobsmacking statement of irresponsibility, in November 2023, Mr. Kennedy said that he wanted to pause infectious disease research for 8 years. Mr. Kennedy has indicated he's open to restricting access to the abortion medication mifepristone, which remains a primary target of the Republican crusade against reproductive freedom. I took this on back in 1990 when I chaired the first congressional hearing on the topic. The science was clear then. It's even clearer today. Mifepristone is safe. The only reason it's under question in 2025 is because people with a political agenda have been out lying about it. Women deserve to know if Mr. Kennedy will abuse his power as our country's chief health officer to essentially implement a national abortion ban by restricting access to the safe and legal medication. Meanwhile, as the Trump budget office threw the Medicaid program into chaos yesterday, Republicans in Congress are proposing deep cuts to the program that will rip away health care from millions of Americans who count on this vital lifeline. Cuts to Medicaid of this magnitude are going to jack up the cost of health insurance. It'll shutter nursing homes and rural hospitals, deprive seniors and Americans with disabilities of home-based care. That approach amounts to handing over our nation's health system to for-profit insurance companies who've made a fortune delaying and denying care. Mr. Kennedy has virtually no knowledge or experience in handling these issues. It leaves him unprepared to take on a crisis like the nation witnessed yesterday when the Trump budget office shut down the federal Medicaid payment portal. After a careful review of Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s statements, actions, and views, materials that I have reviewed personally and closely, I've reached the conclusion that he should not be entrusted with the health and well-being of the American people. When he's taken every side of every issue, How can this committee and the American people believe he has anything to say? Let me close by saying I believe more strongly than ever, and I have specialized in healthcare during my time in public service, that we're a turning point with regard to healthcare in America. If there's one word to describe Americans' feelings towards the healthcare system, it's disillusioned. At every single turn, people feel like they're rolling a load of dice, loaded dice, when they try to get health care. Americans are justifiably angry, fed up, and tired of a system that puts profits over patients. Instead of debating meaningful ways to improve Americans' health care, now the committee is being forced to relitigate settled science about vaccines and whether or not the federal government should help Americans get affordable health care. I know where Democrats on this finance committee stand when it comes to an agenda
This guy
to
does
lower
not
costs
like
and improve
him.
care.
Carrying extra fat is dangerous. This is how to get rid of it.
If you want to drop this,
Start eating more of these.
you might think this would take years to learn, but I'm going
I must say, I cannot say the same about the nominee sitting in front of me. And let me acknowledge, finally, Mr. Chairman, Terry Mills from Portland, Oregon, who is here to represent Nurses for America, and I'd like to enter a statement from her organization into the record at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection. Thank you, Ranking Member Wyden. Mr. Kennedy, in a few moments, you will be given the opportunity to make your opening statement and respond to these attacks and other. Thank you, Ranking Member Wyden. Mr.
This dude's just staring at RFK, drinking his water. He did not give a damn what he was just saying. That dude sounded like he popped a few before he came in.
Mr. Kennedy, in a few moments, you will be given the opportunity to make your opening statement and respond to these attacks and other questions that the members of this committee have. I would say that with regard to the attack on Medicaid that we just heard, that was a false attack. It's been proven false overnight. The Medicaid portal is operating efficiently today and was never intended to be shut down.
Would gentleman yield, since he's mentioned my name? There was a significant amount of time yesterday where there was bedlam across the country over the status of the Medicaid portal. I hope it's being corrected, but there were problems all through the day.
There certainly were attacks yesterday. The problem has been clarified and the Medicaid portal is fully operational as we speak. Mr. Kennedy, before I turn the time over to you to share your opening statement, I would like to give you a brief introduction. The son of Senator Robert F. Kennedy and nephew of President John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy Jr. has been an advocate for consumers since 1985. After graduating from Harvard University, Mr. Kennedy studied at the London School of Economics and received his law degree from the University of Virginia Law School and a master's degree in environmental law from Pace University. He has founded 2 advocacy groups and has spent the last 40 years working to restore and protect children's health. He was a former independent candidate in the 2024 presidential election, and President Trump nominated him this year to be in November of 2024 to be the HHS secretary. In announcing his nomination, President Trump stated, "Mr. Kennedy will restore these agencies to the traditions of gold standard scientific research and beacons of transparency and end the chronic disease epidemic and make America great and healthy again." Before you give your opening statement, Mr. Kennedy, I have 4 obligatory questions that we ask all nominees before this committee. First, is there anything that you are aware of in your background that might present a conflict of interest with the duties of the office to which you have been nominated?
All right. No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Do you know of any reason, personal or otherwise, that would in any way prevent you from fully and honorably discharging the responsibilities of the office to which you have been nominated?
No, I do not.
Do you agree without reservation to respond to any reasonable summons to appear and testify before any duly constituted committee of Congress if you are confirmed?
Yes, I do.
And finally, do you commit to providing a prompt response in writing to any questions addressed to you by any senator of this committee?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. And before you begin, if you would like to, you may introduce your wife and children.
Yes. My wife, Cheryl Hines, is here. My daughter, Kit Kennedy, my son, Bobby Kennedy, his wife, Amaryllis Fox Kennedy, and my nephew, Jackson Hines, is here too.
We welcome you all. Thank you. You may proceed with your statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Crapo, Ranking Member Wyden, and members of this distinguished committee, I'm humbled to be sitting here today as President Trump's nominee to oversee the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. I want to thank President Trump for entrusting me to deliver on his promise to make America healthy again. I also want to thank Cheryl and Kik and Bobby and all of my other children who are here today and all the many members of my large extended family for the love that they have so generously shared. Ours has always been a family that has been involved in public service, and I look forward to continuing that tradition. My journey into the issue of health began with my career as an environmental attorney, working with hunters and fishermen and mothers in the small town in the Hudson Valley and along the Hudson River. I learned very early on that human health and environmental injuries are intertwined. The same chemicals that kill fish make people sick also. Today, Americans' overall health is in grievous condition. Over 70% of adults and a third of children are overweight or obese. Diabetes is 10 times more prevalent than it was during the 1960s. Cancer among young people is rising by 1 or 2% a year. Autoimmune diseases, neurodevelopmental disorders, Alzheimer's, asthma, ADHD, depression, addiction, and a host of other physical and mental health conditions are all on the rise, some of them exponentially. The United States has worse health than any other developed nation, yet we spend more on healthcare, at least double, and in some cases triple, as other countries. Last year, we spent $4.8 trillion, not counting the indirect costs of missed work. That's almost a fifth of GDP. It's tantamount to a 20% tax on the entire economy. No wonder America has trouble competing with countries that pay a third of what we do for health and have better outcomes and a healthier workforce.
You know what's better than one Papa John's pizza? Two Papa John's pizza for only $6.99 each.
Only at Papa John's. Bundle 2 or more Papa Pairings menu items for $6.99 each. Get your favorites for $6.99 each. Better ingredients, better pizza. Better get you some Papa John's.
Free Tax USA, where federal filing is always free with no games or pricing gimmicks. Because choosing your tax software shouldn't be a guessing game. Companies may claim their federal tax filing is free, that is, minus the hidden fees, high prices, unwanted add-ons. No way. And when you're ready to submit, it's not really free. Not this year, my friend. You have found Free Tax USA. Say goodbye to forced upgrades and unexpected fees. The only trick up our sleeve is free federal tax filing for everyone. Go to freetaxusa.com.
But I don't want to make this too much about money. It's the human tragedy that moves us to care. President Trump has promised to restore America's global strength and to restore the American dream, but he understands we can't be a strong nation when our people are so sick. A healthy person has 1,000 dreams, a sick person has only one. Today, over half of our countrymen and women are chronically ill. When I met with President Trump last summer, I discovered that he is more than just concerned for this tragic situation, but genuine care. President Trump is committed to restoring the American dream, and 77 million Americans delivered a mandate to him to do just that, due in part to the embrace and elevation of the Make America Healthy Again movement. This movement, led largely by Maha moms from every state, you can see many of them behind us today, and in the hallways and in the lobbies, is one of the most transcendent and powerful movements I've ever seen. I promise President Trump that if confirmed, I will do everything in my power to put the health of Americans back on track. And I've been greatly heartened to discover a deep level of care among members of this committee, too, both Democrats and Republicans. I came away from our conversations confident that we can put aside our divisions for the sake of a healthier America. For a long time, the nation has been locked in a divisive healthcare debate about who pays. Has been away from our conversations confident.
What's up with Mr. Whitehouse? What's up with Mr. Whitehouse here? Huh? What is Mr. Whitehouse doing? He's just sleeping. She don't look impressed. Neither does she. I feel like these people aren't taking this guy serious. Which, I don't know. I wonder why.
Confident that we can put aside our divisions for the sake of a healthier America. For a long time, the nation has been locked in a divisive healthcare debate about who pays. Well, when healthcare costs reach 20%, there are no good options, only bad ones. Shifting the burden around between government and corporations and insurers and providers and families is like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. Our country will sink beneath a sea of desperation and debt if we don't change the course and ask, why are healthcare costs so high in the first place? The obvious answer is chronic disease. The CDC says 90% of healthcare spending goes toward managing chronic disease, which hits lower income Americans the hardest. The president's pledge is not to make some Americans healthy again, but to make all of our people healthy again. There is no single culprit in chronic disease. Much as I have criticized certain industries and agencies, President Trump and I understand that most of their scientists and experts genuinely care about American health. Therefore, we will bring together all stakeholders in pursuit of this unifying goal. Before I conclude, I want to make sure the committee is clear about a few things. News reports have claimed that I am anti-vaccine or anti-industry. I am neither. I am pro-safety.
We'll have order. Please proceed, Mr. Kennedy.
I am pro-safety.
That's crazy. Someone literally took the time out of their day to go there and yell that and get kicked out. Why? What was the point? What was the point in doing that? It's crazy. What if he is anti-vaccine? What if? He can't do that? What if?
Safety. I worked for years to raise awareness about the mercury and toxic chemicals in fish, and nobody called me anti-fish. And I believe that that vaccines play a critical role in healthcare. All of my kids are vaccinated. I've written many books on vaccines. My first book in 2014, the first line of it is, I am not anti-vaccine, and the last line is, I am not anti-vaccine. Nor am I the enemy of food producers. American farms are the bedrock of our culture, of our politics, of our national security. I was a 4-H kid, and I spent my summer working on ranches. I want to work with our farmers. I want to work with our farmers and food producers to remove burdensome regulations and unleash American ingenuity. MAHA simply cannot succeed without a partnership, a full partnership of American farmers. In my advocacy, I've often disturbed the status quo by asking uncomfortable questions. Well, I'm not going to apologize for that. We have massive health problems in this country that we must face honestly. And the first thing I've done every morning for the past 20 years is to get on my knees and pray to God that he would put me in a position to end the chronic disease epidemic and to help America's children. That's why I'm so grateful to President Trump for the opportunity to sit before you today and seek your support and partnership in this endeavor. I will conclude with a promise. The members of this committee, to the President, and to all the tens of millions of parents across America, especially the moms, who have propelled this issue.
There's something about this that's off. There's something about this that's off. I feel like it's unauthentic. I don't know what it is. I can't put my tongue on it. I can't tell you what it is, but just pay attention to the background. It's just something off about it.
To center stage. Should I be so privileged as to be confirmed, we will make sure our tax dollars support healthy foods. We will scrutinize the chemical additives in our food supply. We will remove financial conflicts of interest from our agencies. We will create an honest, unbiased, gold standard science at HHS, accountable to the President, to Congress, and to the American people. We will reverse the chronic disease epidemic and put the nation back on the road to good health. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy, I will begin. Each of us will have 5 minutes to ask you questions, and then at the conclusion of the hearing, if there are further questions, there will be an opportunity for those questions to be submitted to you, and I ask that you respond to them promptly. Mr. Kennedy, you have emphasized the importance of nutrition in preventing and managing chronic disease, improving health outcomes, and reducing health costs. I share your interest in the relationship between our diet and our well-being. And if confirmed, I look forward to partnering with you on those efforts. Would you share with the committee why you are passionate about the nutrition-oriented disease prevention and what you have learned?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I had 11 brothers and sisters. I had dozens of first cousins. I was raised in a time where we did not have a chronic disease epidemic. When my uncle was president, 2% of American kids had chronic disease. Today, 66% have chronic disease. We spend zero on chronic disease during the Kennedy administration. Today, we spend $4.3 trillion a year. With 77% of our kids cannot qualify for military service. When I was a kid, the typical pediatrician would see one case of diabetes in his or her lifetime, 40 or 50-year career. Today, 1 out of every 3 kids who walks through her office door is diabetic or pre-diabetic. And the most recent data from NIH shows 38% of teens are diabetic or pre-diabetic. Autism rates have gone from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 1,500, depending on what studies you look at. In my generation today,
It's the food, man. It's the food. The food that the school's serving you, the food that your parents are getting you, and they're not doing it on purpose. It's not like kids' parents are just, you know, buying them the wrong food. We're being told it's the right food, but it's the wrong food. They're not being open about how they're making the food. They're not being open about how they raise the food. They're not being open about what they put in the food. Which, I mean, obviously everything's like public information, but you know, they hide it for a reason. Like, it's not out there because obviously if they showed you how they raised, you know, cows with their milk on TV, you wouldn't go buy that milk. If they showed you how they, you know, put all the bullshit they put in these animals to raise them, you wouldn't buy it. You wouldn't buy it. So if they told you like what kind of sprays they use to put on it, you wouldn't buy it. You know, it's just that simple. It's making these kids have diabetes, bro. It's crazy. Oh, I gotta get a baby.
Today, 70-year-old men, 1 in 34 in my kids' generation. We've seen this explosion of autoimmune disease, of allergic diseases. This is not just a economic issue. It's not just a national security issue. It is a spiritual issue, and it is a moral issue. We cannot live up to our role as an exemplary nation, as a moral authority around the world, and we're writing off an entire generation of kids.
Thank you very much. And if confirmed, how could we work together to integrate nutrition-based interventions into our healthcare programs like Medicaid and Medicare?
Well, there are many ways that we can do that. The federal funding of the SNAP program, for example, and of school lunch programs could be a driver for helping kids. We shouldn't be giving 60% of the kids in school processed food that is making them sick. We shouldn't be spending 10% of the SNAP program on sugar drinks.
Agreed.
So we have a direct ability.
But here's the thing, though. The reason why I feel like they don't want him to do this is because that's going to tap into the big pharma, in which that's probably what they're getting at right here. But you got to think, man, these people are getting these kids to be pre-diabetic. They're giving everybody this just terrible food to buy, and sending them to school. So what happens then when you're all loaded? You're 8-year-olds all loaded up on sugar, and they're trying to sit in a classroom for 8 hours. What do you like? I mean, do the math here. So what's going to happen? Oh, Jimmy was bad at school. We got to get him on Adderall or whatever they put him on nowadays. I don't know. I'm sure they probably have some other mechanism they start him off with because they realize that Adderall is like one shade away from methamphetamine. But you know, it's a crazy world out here, and that's, as a parent, this is what we experience. And so this is the kind of stuff. See, this is the kind of stuff that we are paying attention to because of this guy right here and his other siblings. But you know, this guy's tapping into a market where he's going to make the industry lose a lot of money. No kids are going to be getting prescribed their Adderall because he's going to figure out the sauce. Or I mean, maybe, who knows? I mean, I hope that's the thing. You know, I hope that's what happens. Get these kids off these crazy medications and get them on a regular diet and regular exercise. You know, it's hard to do. I get that, but it's just crazy. You know what I mean? It's crazy what they do for money out here.
To change things there. We also,
time for night-night.
You know, in Medicaid and Medicare, we need to focus more on outcome-based medicine, on putting people in charge of their own health care, of making them accountable for their own health care so they understand the relationship between eating and getting sick.
I want you to go get a shirt on.
Most importantly, we need to deploy NIH and FDA to doing the research to understand the relationship between these different food additives and chronic disease so that Americans understand it and make sure that Americans are aware. But I don't want to take food away from anybody. If you like a cheeseburger, a McDonald's cheeseburger, or a Diet Coke, which my boss loves, and you should be able to get them. If you want to eat Hostess Twinkies, you should be able to do that. But you should know what the impacts are on your family and on your health.
Thank you. Senator Wyden.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Before